everybody to a brand new episode of Identity Talk for Educators Live, the show for the unsung heroes of education. I'm your host, Sarfo-Mensah, and if this is your first time tuning in to the podcast, I welcome you and I hope that today's episode is one that will allow you to come back for more episodes. And if you're somebody who is a returning listener or viewer of this podcast, as always, we thank you for your support. And we welcome you back and hope that today's episode is one that you find informative, enlightening, and as always, insightful. So before we get into our main event, just a reminder, if you are on YouTube, please make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can get future notifications on new episodes of the podcast. If you tune in from Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure you subscribe there as well. We also accept monetary donations for those who want to help us continue to build this phenomenal platform. We do that through Cash App with our handle $IDTALK4ED, or through Venmo with our handle at KwameSM. That's KWAMESM. And to catch new episodes of the podcast as well as past episodes, you can either go to our YouTube channel, which is under my name, Sarfo-Mensah, or you can go to our main website at IDTALK4EDucators.com. And as always, we thank you all for the support. All right, y'all. So we're coming with another new episode and another fantastic guest. I've actually had a chance to get to know her over the past few weeks and learn about her story and the work she's doing at her school. So this is an educator who has been in this international school game for, I want to say, almost a couple decades. She also teaches art, and she is somebody who has been doing a lot of work in her current school in the UK. Where they're very serious about their commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, not just for students, but for all members of their school community. And I'm just honored to give her the opportunity to not only share what's going on at her school, but more importantly, to share her story and what's allowed her to stay connected to this thing we love called education. So without further ado, I'd love to bring on today's guest, Lauren Kelley, to the podcast to talk with us about her journey and what she's doing in this current time. So let's bring Lauren on.
Thank you, Kwame. I'm thrilled to be here. What an honor. It's been really great to
Yes.
get to know you. A couple of weeks, get inspired, connect with ALOC again. It's great to see you. Thank you.
Yes. I feel like this is what, third time within a 2-week span we getting together like this.
I know the calendars are aligning and it's been great.
Yes, it's been a blessing. So once again, thank you for taking some time to talk with us on your busy schedule. And we're going to just go right in. So
yeah,
I'm sure you've had a chance to listen to some past episodes of the podcast. So you already know that in the beginning, we always like to start from the very top with this question. You've been in this game for a long time, and I'm curious to know what got you into the game, who or what inspired you. Maybe it was a moment or a handful of moments that led to this, but what's your story in terms of what led you to become an educator?
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy one for me, and it hasn't changed still. It's the same reason I still come to work, and it's I wanted to make the world a better place. And I was sure that I could do it through teaching, and I still am. I mean, more on that is that I stand on the shoulders of family members who have dedicated their life to serving through education in various ways. But first and foremost, my dad. We lost my mom when I was very young, and I spent almost all my time with him then. And he was a middle school teacher for 39 years, same classroom, public school, Walled Lake, Michigan. And if I wasn't helping him in his classroom, marking papers, checking spelling tests as a very young child, then I was helping him with his low-income housing projects that he did, organization that he did. And I think through that, it was always conversations about the real stuff, like talking about, why he went into teaching. And for him, it was social mobility. It was about common humanity. And that's what he dedicated all his time to. So I just thought that's what people did, right? And to me, that he was the ultimate teacher in every way for me. And so to me, that's what education was. It's like this direct access to the next generation to have more equitable beliefs about people, right? About common humanity. And so it was a no-brainer for me. I didn't go into it for the academics at all. It's always been very clear to me. Yeah, it's still why I love
Yeah.
coming every day.
It's so great when you have a guest that comes on here and they just have a clear cut reason why they got in. Usually when people come on, it's like, oh, it didn't start out that way. We kind of just work ourselves into this field. But for you, it was like clear as day. Nope, this is what I want to do. I saw my father do it, and I wanted to have the same kind of impact in the classroom as he did with his students. So that's admirable. Very
Thank
admirable.
you. But I feel like it is fair to say too, thank you. Yes, that's all true. But I think what's also true is I didn't necessarily have the language around all of that until the last few years when
Sure.
I took on my current role. And I'm working, so my current role now, so I'm a primary school teacher by trade. I started my career outside of Flint, Michigan, Fenton, Michigan, and then was there for a few years, Michigan State University alumni, and then had the opportunity to move abroad. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure. And so have been abroad since 2010. And have taught various things, but primary school teacher by trade. And then I've been at ACS for 12 years. And I always taught in the classroom, and then had this opportunity to move in to become the chair of our DEIB Council for ACS. And so this work now, and I also, that's apparently a part-time role, but I also teach art on this, the other half of my role. So through the art actually too, but really through the DEIB work, it's become really clear to me, like, this is why I went into it. I knew it, but I didn't have the language. So I've had my moments too of like, why did I do this in the first place? It didn't always feel right. I mean, we evolve, we change. So I've had those moments too. But I think at this point in the role and the work that we're doing and the success we're feeling, it's really clear to me this is why I did it.
So now I want to still stay at young Lauren, maybe 8-year-old Lauren, 9-year-old, like early years Lauren. And I want to talk about your own schooling. So you and I, we went through the same K-12 system. So we have an idea of how that is in the States. But I'm wondering, in your journey of schooling, did you have any issues as far as being able to embrace who you are and feel confident in who you are wherever you were, whether it was in school or other settings growing up?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. The reason I'm struggling and that I'm worried this is going to come out quite clunky is just because I'm really aware of identity harm and things that can happen with certain identity. And that's not the type of pain and harm that I've experienced. I am conscious of that. That being said, as a kid, we're aware of our own reality, right? And so at that time for me in my life, I think I was probably completely disassociated with who I actually was and what I actually cared about. And I think that I know that now as an adult looking back, but I think that's a result of trauma, really young trauma at an early age, obviously losing a parent. My dad raised me. My dad's was an incredible man, but he had experienced really significant trauma as well. He had lost his dad very shortly before that, and he did an amazing job parenting, but it was a hard time for our family. And so I think as a child, you pick up on that, and I didn't want to make it any harder, right? I loved my dad more than anything. I didn't want to make it any harder. So I wasn't talking about being sad, and probably so much so that I didn't even realize I was, right? And you just start a kid and you just get on, and that's just what kids do. It's how they think. They just survive it. And despite having the opportunity to do lots of counseling as a kid and a really supportive family, No, I don't think I was ever really myself. I was just your kind of people pleasers because I wasn't going to give anyone else a reason to leave, right? So I think there's that, and that's a real well-being piece to it. But the question was around in school specifically. I think I'm thinking of that age frame that you've given, and it just makes me think of how much we bring to school, right? Because the school was fantastic. I can't fault my school. I had teachers that I was really well looked after. I mean, I didn't need for anything in terms of the physical things that I needed, certainly. And I'm really aware of that.
Right.
Some attention, some identity awareness stuff. Yeah, that would have been helpful. But what I did have was teachers who took me home from school to give my dad some time to himself, who kept me at their, had dinner tables all the time. They still reach out to me. I know their kids still. And that was how I grew up. I mean, there was a lot of love in my community. There was a lot of love in my school. It wasn't the schools. It was what I brought to school. That was hard.
Got it. And then I'm going to fast forward now. So you go through Michigan State. You're probably there during the time they won a championship.
Yeah, that's right.
National championship.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it McKean Cleaves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just before. They were just before.
Just before? Oh,
That's
okay.
right.
Look at the time for hold up.
Yeah.
I know they won it right around that time. But anyway, that's sidebar. So you go through Michigan State, and then you spend your first few years in Fenton, teaching, getting your feet wet, you're doing the thing that you love. And then one day you told yourself, I want to go abroad. I want to experience something different. So tell me what drove you to want to leave the States and start teaching internationally, because that's a bold move, especially that early on in your teaching career.
Yeah. So it's two things. Two words are coming to mind with this question. First one is love, because I went because my now husband asked me to. But secondly, was belonging. I didn't have this real tie to my home. It wasn't a happy place for me. I had positive experiences, but I think my well-being from just various things in my childhood, it wasn't a happy place, and I was ready to go. So 4 years into teaching, and my now husband, after knowing him for 6 months, had said to me, when we first met, we had connected on the chance to go abroad and travel. We were really keen to do it. He had traveled a lot abroad, and I hadn't had the chance to do it, and I wanted to. So that was how we met. Started our relationship with this common interest. And so 6 months in, he called and said, "Hey, I've got this chance to move to Hamburg, Germany. And if you'll come with me, I'll go." I was like, "Okay, great. Sure. 6 months in, we'll do it." And I hung up and I thought, I got to look up, where is Hamburg, Germany? Never heard of it, Kwame. I didn't know what I had said yes to. And that was it. I didn't go for a job. I went just to take a chance.
Wow. Hold up. So at this time, you had only known your current husband, then boyfriend, for 6 months?
6 months. Yeah.
And you took a leap of faith and said, "Yeah, I barely know the guy, but you know what? It's something about him that I trust that's caused me to say, you know what, I'm going to give him a chance, and I'm going to go ahead and take that chance with him."
You said it.
In another country.
That's it.
That's faith. That's faith.
Yeah, it's a lot of things, isn't it? Yeah, it's fate. I mean, I love him dearly. We've been married 9 years. We've got 2 beautiful children. Yes, of course. I believe in all of that. I also believe in taking chances. I also believe in seeing the world. I also believe that if you don't feel that you fit in somewhere, not connected to things, then you're looking around. You're looking for something else. You're not connected to it. So I think all those things were true, for sure.
All right, cool. So then you get to Germany, and what were your initial impressions when you got there?
I was so happy to be there, just to be somewhere, learn about other things, right? I just hadn't experienced it. And I just knew I was fortunate to be able to. Always wanted to do it. So we moved to Hamburg, Germany. We went for my husband Reggie's job. So he went to work right away, and then it was like just me, right? And you try to network. Didn't know what I was doing, very new, and happened to be sitting. I looked for jobs at the International School of Hamburg. obviously international school jobs, I know now, go really early. I didn't know it at the time. I was looking on, it's August then. There's nothing, of course. So sitting in a cafe, hoping to meet a friend somehow randomly. And I was chatting on the phone to a friend, of course, in English. It's the only language I speak fluently. And and someone, also English speaker, lady who was from Australia, living in New York, then currently to Hamburg, said, "I don't mean to be listening in, whatever, but I hear that you sound like you're a teacher looking for a job." She said, "I've got a school. I'm trying to start an early childhood center. My daughter is missed the cutoff for international school Hamburg by 3 weeks. She's ready to start something. I've got 8 kids. You want to be a teacher? I've got the building." I was like, "Yeah." Said yes on the spot, easy. So we started what in German would be called a kindergarten, a Tagesmutter, which is a day mother, right? The early childhood program in Germany is really strong and really affordable and absolutely fantastic. And so we had a German business partner to help us with the legality. And then my partner at the time, my business partner, the British business partner at the time, the mother of these children, and she had recruited everyone. And I had what is a dream. I had the chance to start this school. So we started with 8, as I said. We stayed there for 2 years. Built it up. We had 28, which is definitely max capacity, a very small building by the time I left, and it's still running now to this day. So that was really my first experience of international school. So when I was in Fenton, actually, it was an IB school. So we were in a Title I area, right? Which is, are you familiar with that phrase, in the United States? So it was a low income area. And it was the first K-12 district in all of Michigan to pursue IB accreditation. That was fascinating. And that was why I stayed. That was my first introduction to the IB, was the public school. I never even knew that was a thing. So then I got my IB experience. So that was easy. And I had this taste for actually experiencing more international cultures. And so then I had that in Hamburg and maintained that for 2 years. And so then when we moved to the UK, so then after 2 years in Germany, we decided we were looking for something new, a new opportunity. And we came to the UK to visit and loved it. And we were ready my husband wanted to go back to school. So when we needed to be in English. And so that was another driving factor. And so I was able to apply to IB schools then, given the experience. And so that's how I ended up at ACS. Yeah.
So this season, Identity Talk for Educators Live will be including ad spots for businesses, products, and events that are adding significant value to their communities. And here's the catch. You don't have to be an educator or an education-based business to be a part of this. We're looking for people who are just doing great work in the community, and we want to use our platform as a way to amplify their work. So if you are an entrepreneur or you know of an entrepreneur who is doing just that, bring them in our direction. Have them reach out to us. If they want to learn more about their ad spots and how they can get themselves promoted on this platform, they can contact myself, Kwame at identitytalkforeducators.com. I'll say it one more time. It is Kwame at identitytalkforeducators.com. Hope to hear from you, and let's keep on amplifying our work and building each other up. Awesome. So there's already a building trend going on in this episode. You just love to say yes. You are just bold and fearless. You said yes to your 6-month-old boyfriend at the time. You said yes, I'm gonna go ahead and travel with you. And you said yes to a job that you knew very little about, but you saw it as an opportunity.
Yeah,
You didn't take time to question. You didn't hesitate. You just said, you know what? It's an opportunity. I don't know all the answers, but I'm gonna go ahead and try it out. And I think that's something that I struggle with personally. It's funny, my wife and I had this conversation a few days ago about how I just gotta just start saying yes to things. I like to know everything there is to know about the opportunity before I make a commitment. And I think in the past that has backfired on me because I've missed out on some good opportunities because I just need to know all the answers right up front. So you're starting to reinforce it. You're reinforcing what she's saying. And she'll be more than happy to hear that.
You set me up with her. I would say balance is the right way. Of course, we know this. I need more balance. I need to say no sometimes. I say yes to everything. You should see like all of us teachers, reflective. We're interested in every opportunity. Yeah, but yeah, it's about balance. But yes, I think that is something I definitely know is true. I will always say yes and think about it.
So now you are at ACS. And I want to ask you this question because it ties back to a term you mentioned in the beginning about social mobility, right? When you're talking about your father's passion for this work. And when we think about social mobility, it's something that only certain groups are privileged to have compared to others, right?
Yeah,
So now I'm sitting here, I'm talking to a white woman. For those who are listening, you have a black husband,
I do.
you have biracial kids. And I'm thinking about this term social mobility, but also the work that you do as a DIB director. I'm wondering when you're growing up, or even as you got into your adulthood, what point did you make yourself aware of the fact that, yeah, I really have a lot of privilege as a white woman? Like, when did it really sink in?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I have been thinking about this. There's been glimpses for kind of as long as I can remember. That's the truth. Glimpses. And I think specifically because I had my dad who didn't shy away from these topics. We talked very, very explicitly about equality. Common humanity was like the record, the broken record that went platinum in our house. This is what we talked about all the time, right? And thank God, because it has completely framed how I live my life, my work, my family, all of it. When did I realize? So I think in this work, I have really grateful that I have had grateful most days. And then some days it's really hard, but grateful definitely to have an idea of how biases work. And of course, how difficult it is to dismantle. And so it's definitely true that I haven't fully realized it. I'm sure I know that's how biases work, but I keep it at the front of my mind all the time. I think moments in history, of course, not of course, but for me, the first one coming to mind is the murder of George Floyd. Saying that out loud sounds like a tokenistic answer, but that is true. That is what's coming to my mind right now. And it was finally in our face, right? It was really in our face in the right way, as it really deserved to be. And I struggle to talk about it because I don't want to make it about me in any way, even that moment in time. But that moment definitely. And I think that's when Reggie, my husband, and I, who is Black, had really started to have the most open conversations, right, around challenges and racism that he has faced and his feelings about that. Above all, it was really powerful for us. And it was certainly a learning moment for me, long overdue, but I accept it willingly and keep these things at my mind at the front of my mind all the time. I think that's it. I think it's talking about it. It's really listening. I mean, people with identities like mine have had their voices centered for so long. So taking every opportunity I have to just listen and learn will help me continue to break the bias.
And I think that last part's real important. Just the idea of just decentering. Because what tends to happen, particularly in our international school ecosystem, and that's why I'm so appreciative of the work that you do, because there have been other white DEI directors or people who do the work, but yet they still center themselves in the work as opposed to prioritizing the voices that are being marginalized within their school environment. So I appreciate you for not only having that acknowledgement, but also always being aware of it, because that's not something that's always common.
Yeah, there's no room for ego in this work at all, right?
Yeah.
No room for shame. I mean, that's easy for me to say. I know that. But there's no room for that, and there's no room for ego, definitely. And I think it is that. It's just so much listening. And that's, yeah, just a quick snapshot on that is I've said to you before, but we had the real opportunity, the real privilege to attend in Geneva, the ALOC, ECAS, IB, et cetera, International Schools Anti-Discrimination Task Force, the launch, right? And I was really new to this role. So my role, of course, is I look after 3 schools for DEIB. So we have 3 schools in the UK outside of London. we have, one school, they're all K-12, one 1,400 and two about 600. And then we have a central office, of course, as well. And until just the past few months, we had a school in Doha as well, a school of 1,000. So that's been my responsibility. We have a chair of a council of 50 people. That's our team that we've built. Like these are our advocates and our people. So I attended this conference as the chair, and just my every intention was just sit and just listen, like just get what you can and see, because we have to do this well. Like we really want to do this work. And I one of the first few things that I heard was Kevin speaking and Cam speaking and various other wonderful people speaking. And I remember thinking to myself, all right, well, we've got to do something. Like this is so powerful. I'm so moved. And it was very much focused on, identity. I remember Cam Chohan saying something, a really beautiful poem she wrote. And in there was a line about being a proud Sikh warrior. And I just thought, that's amazing. Everyone should have a feeling about that in themselves. Do they? Probably not that I know of, right? That's a huge statement, I know, right. But that's what I was thinking. And then I thought, but how do you? So you just keep listening. And then I had the opportunity to listen to Dr. Cynthia Rowland, who is still the DEIJ lead for International School of Vancouver, Mulgrave International School. And she spoke incredibly with the head at the time about her relationship with the head and what they were able to achieve together. But all of the things that she did in that school, and we were just blown away. And one of the first things on her list, she literally gave us a list, and it is so inspiring, but she said, I wasn't exactly sure because the work needs to be personal. So who am I to just come in and decide? Obviously, right? Great point. I need to listen. So she set up these opportunities for people, meetings, et cetera, and asked various people from all around the school, like, what do you need? What are you thinking? And that's where she framed her work. And I borrowed it, stole it right from, and I thought that is the most perfect thing. I've let her know, actually. And it's so great. I was so grateful for that, because I put this call out to staff at ACS, and I had almost 70 people within 3 months write me to say, yeah, I got something to say. Yes. Right.
70.
Right. That many people read the email. It was great. Now, to be fair, some of it is here and there, and you chat and you say, oh, let's talk more. You know how it goes, but just for clarity, for honesty. But yes, we kept track, and the data that we got, and it was so varied, and it was decentering and listening. That's the
decentering and listening.
Yeah.
You've been at ACS since 2012, correct?
Yeah.
So we're talking 12 years you've been with ACS, and you've only been the DEIB coordinator or part of council for the past 2-3 years?
Yeah. So our council started in 2020 in the wake of George murder. Yeah. And then so I was on maternity leave one of those years, but anyways, I was the co-chair for one of the schools. And then, so it was started by Dom DeLay, and who's in Hanoi now. And when he moved on, then I applied for and took on the role of the chair. And that was 2 years ago.
So I want to look at 2012 to, we'll say 2020. Now, before you decided, hey, I want to take on this position, there were probably some things that you noticed, maybe not just on the Egham campus, but also other ACS campuses that your colleagues were saying. I'm curious to know, in those early years, what were some of those things that helped in making that decision for you to take on this journey of being a DEIB coordinator?
I think it was probably more around the opportunity that the schools had, because the vision is more so than things that I noticed. And that could be a lot of things. That could be my privilege, sure. Probably, right? I'm well aware of that. I'm not sure everyone would give that same answer. I think it was just getting this feeling that we could do more. Like, are we talking about anti-racism? These are things that I was passionate about. We spoke about in my family. We weren't talking about them necessarily at the time, right? But it was kind of this compared with, it was some of that, but a lot more of, we have a lot of resources. We have all of these, all of the nationalities, all of the cultures, all of the languages, a wide range of races, gender diversity, et cetera, et cetera. Like, can't we do more with this? Like, isn't this our opportunity to bridge these things? Right. I mean, maybe at that time it was less of a phrase of the DEI name and more of the thinking around just peace through cultural understanding, which is still true through DEI, but obviously there's different language now in that. I think it was probably more that. And then, of course, our council started after George Floyd was murdered. And then Dom DeLay, of course, had put an email out to everyone and said, what are we doing? And people spoke and people responded. And the council grew really, truly organically through that and continues to really that way.
Awesome. Awesome. And now with the work you all been doing at the school, what are some things that you all would like to implement to the work moving forward? Because you've all done human libraries, y'all have all the networks for the different identity markers, students were painting murals, and you have students co-creating with staff members. There's a lot of beautiful things going on across all the different ACS campuses. So I'm curious to know, where do you go from that? Like,
Oh, it's
how do
so
you
good.
keep it
It's so
going?
good to hear, right? Because you know what it's like here. You're in your space and all you can think of is all you want to do. Like that's all we ever think.
Right.
What more can we do? So to hear that is really great. Thank you. Like that is everything. You talked about human libraries. We need more of that. My heart, it beats human library. I really feel that they can make a huge, really long lasting, significant difference in the world and just connecting us as a race, right? As a human race. So we'll have more of that, right? So we've spoken with the ALEC Community Visioning over the weekend and shared that, my colleague Anne-Marie O'Henniken and I. And I want to give her credit for those human libraries because that's her idea. But so we've had 2 at Agam, and our other campuses will have them as well. And so it's interesting because other campuses saying things like there's divisions between the staff, or, that there's a real feel here culturally in terms of the climate and culture, right? And so we said, well, why don't we do a human library, right? And that's working in that way. We've done something that I think has been really effective, and it seems really simple in comparison to human library, but we call it our inclusive celebrations calendar. So we wanted to make sure we didn't leave something off. There's so many international days, and rightfully so, because this is how you raise awareness and educate. But we were missing things all the time, and it was late, and we weren't sure how to do it. And so one of the heads of school and I, Mark Wilson, is the head of school at Egem, and we were having a conversation about how can we manage this better so that we are not leaving people out. Of course, we've added belonging to our DEI strategy. And so this is an important piece. So that's, how do people feel seen in our calendar? It's hugely important. And then of course, so we can plan and just streamline it, just to plan it. So I started with a list from the UN of international and world days of recognition. Just put it on something as simple as a Google sheet. And then went to a staff meeting and explained, this is what we're trying to do. We want everyone to feel seen. It's really important. This is our mission with the DEI. Can you please have a look at this and ask yourself, do I feel seen in this calendar? And if you don't add, if you have comments, if we've gotten something wrong, all of this. And if you'd like to lead, put your name down. And then people spoke. I had someone write me at 1 a.m. because I had forgotten to leave Odd Socks Day off, which is really big in the UK for Anti-Bullying Week. That's exactly what you want, right? Engage. It was such engagement, and it was filled up. So we've then branded it, and it looks lovely, like an ACS calendar, and that helps us. So we know what we're covering, and everyone's voice has been added. So the next step, thinking about what's next, is adding parents to that. We want the parents and then the students to have their conversation with the parents, so everyone has a say. At the moment, we started with staff, and it's been great. And so when people remind us that we've left something off accidentally, we have a conversation. Thank you for letting us know. Great, we'll add it for next year, not a problem. And that has helped us so much. That's one bit. And I think just the second bit of a very long answer is about student voice. So we've done a lot with student voice, but it needs to be even more regular.
I didn't need to come to the school just to see this for myself. I just gotta come.
Please.
I
You
just
make
gotta
my
come on.
great. Come on.
Yeah. So you have all this going on, and being a coordinator, that's a lot to have to manage. And I know there are people who are also helping out, but I wonder, how do you personally measure success in your position as a coordinator? What does success look like for you?
Oh, what a question. Yeah, thanks for asking. It's something I need to reflect on, definitely. You touched on a couple of things there. The team, it's a really important piece there. And the conversations we have, what they're feeling, and what they're seeing and what they're hearing. And, our team of, so we have DEIB chairs at all of our schools. So myself and 2 others, and then one in our central office. And then we now have 5 staff networks leads as well. So this is our team. And so I think what we're hearing and feeling, that's a piece of it. Success, oh gosh, I mean, it's never done, so that's hard. I suppose it's just that, honestly. What are people saying when we ask or don't ask? We ask for feedback constantly. We get it sometimes, right? Sometimes for the human library, I shared 57 pieces. Fantastic. That's a ton of feedback. Generally, it's not like that. Yeah, I think it's that. It's the feel. This is about day-to-day lives, right? It's about love in the everyday, as Alok would say. So I think it's that. It's what, how do you feel? How are people feeling?
And with the workload that you have, because this work is heavy, it's taxing, and there's so much involved with it. How do you take care of yourself? How do you stay connected to your center, whatever that is for you? Because I know there are days where things just feel way too heavy that you need somebody to lift you up when you can't lift anything. So what does that, I don't want to use the word self-care, but how do you keep yourself grounded personally?
I think the first thing I'm thinking of is I just love this work so much that I'm okay. I know what you're saying. I hear you. But this is what I was always supposed to be doing. So I just feel so grateful because I haven't always felt that way about my job. And I do now. And so there's that too. But yeah, it's hard and it's a lot and it is too much. Definitely. I'm really aware of that. So I have 2 beautiful kids and a wonderful husband. And we spend a lot of time on our bikes, walking by the river, that type of thing. It's just changing the environment when I need to. But I don't feel, I think the things that keep well-being good are true to yourself. For me, that's my personal experience. When I'm not being true to myself and honest with myself, I'm not in a good state mentally. I know that. And it's happened time and time again through my life. I love what I'm doing so much. I'm doing it in the way that's true to me, which is just always a way through love. And so that's working. So I'm in a good space. I feel stressed out, which is a loaded term, all of these things. And sometimes I'm like everyone else. I just can't do it then. And you just have to be like, I'm sorry, it's going to be late, whatever it is, and that's just human. And it's remembering we're human. And yeah, it's changing my environment, spending time with my kids. And then, but after the end of every weekend, or I'm always excited to come back to work. So I'm doing what I want to do.
And then I want to talk about your kids for a second because I'm a father. I have my 2 sons who are young, and
How
they
old?
spend most of, my oldest son is 6, and then my youngest is 1.
Okay. Busy times at your house.
Very busy times. Always a busy time. You don't hear him, but he's actually crying in the background. He just woke up from a nap. But anyway, so having 2 sons, my wife and I, we think about this a lot. They've spent most of their time abroad. They haven't seen the oppression and the level of anti-Black behavior that her and I experienced growing up or have witnessed. They've been very fortunate to be abroad all these years and not be subjected to that. But we know that it's going to come a point in time where we may have to have that conversation. We know that we have to continue to build up their self-esteem and their self-image about who they are. I'm wondering, as a mother, how do you go about doing that with your own children, or you and your husband, so that they feel good about their identities and who they are, knowing how the dominant culture is and how it dictates how we're supposed to feel?
Such an important question. I think about it all the time. I think it's if there ever was something that had a multi-pronged approach, it's this, right? A lot of things I'm thinking. I think so. At the task force, I listened to a grade 12 speaker, mixed race. Her mother's Black and her father's white. And she spoke so beautifully about her experience of racism and her experience being an anti-racism advocate. And she was telling us, as a host of people, DEIB-minded people, there for that that you have got to speak to your students, your children, young people about this, because the world will. If you don't, the world will. And what she was saying was that she wasn't having these conversations as a young child, but horrible racist acts that she went into detail about against herself and her siblings, that told her that. So that was her learning of it. And that is forever ingrained in my heart. And we came back, and Reggie, my husband, and I spoke a lot about this. And I think it's talking about it, and that's not the answer, but it's giving language and awareness, and so that Jack and Eve don't have to figure all these things out on their own, and they will, and of course, because there's only so much we can do as parents, and they're their own people. But I think that's a huge piece of it. I think it needs to happen in school as well. They're not too young to talk about it in school. A good example of this is my daughter. So when Eve, now 7, when she was in kindergarten 2 years ago, and at 5, she, I had no idea this was happening at the DEIB lead, which is exactly how it should be. Teachers just running this program. And she was looking at this book called More Than Just Peach, which is an American book, American activist. You familiar? Bellin.
Yes.
Bellin. And Bellin inspired Eve. So obviously it was mixed race. And she gathered a little group of her friends, and they decided that everyone in the school should have some Bellin's skin tone colored pencils. So they did it. As a 5-year-old, that's a huge project. So they did that. And then it spread like wildfire positively. And the last presentation that her and her 3 or 4 other kindergarten friends gave was to a grade 12 advisory. And that was the one that I got to see. Someone said, you have got to come and see this. So I came down, and at the end of that, one of our Black grade 12 students, she stood up and she said, if someone had said this to me earlier in my school career, my life would have been completely different. And I thought, I can't understand. I'm not pretending that. And that's not an end all be all, but it's got to start with language and talking and just raising awareness of these things. So I think that's a huge piece. And then the other piece too is Jack and Eve will see their parents dedicated to this work too. And that's not the answer, I don't think, by any means, but that's a piece of it. Like there's something that we believe that can be done, and that you can, and our approach is through love. Reggie, he is involved in a lot of Black tech talent. He's an IT consultant, and he works in a lot of Black tech talent, and he does a lot of mentoring. And in his role, he is one of only 12 Black people at that role in the whole of the UK, of thousands and thousands of members. So we're really aware, and he's very active in that space. So I think that's important too. We talk about these things all the time.
Nice. And Lauren, I'm going to ask you this final question to wrap things up. And it's the question I ask all my guests. How do you stay true to the teacher in you?
Always, it's my mantra. My mantra that I do in all situations, and it's that there's always a way through love, whatever the case may be.
There it is, y'all. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Lauren, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today. But before you go, how can people connect with you beyond this episode? So whether it's on social media or maybe through the ACS website.
Yeah, thank you. Every time I go to post something on LinkedIn, I think, God, I should be doing something. I need to be doing some initiative or something at work. But please find me on LinkedIn. We share a lot of what we do. And anything that we've done, Human Libraries is a good example. We'll share everything. LinkedIn, Lauren Kelley. Thanks. Kelley.
All right. Y'all heard it. So make sure you connect with Lauren. She herself is doing work. You can see she's very humble. You can hear it in her voice, but listen, she has to get some recognition as well. And I know she will not do that for herself, so I'll do it for her. Y'all need to connect with her, please. Please connect with her. And I think your life will be better if you do connect with her. I can guarantee that.
Thank you. It's an absolute honor to be a part of this, to be talking through these things with you. You're a ray of sunshine. Thank you, Kwame.
All right, y'all. So we're about to end another episode of IDTALK4ED Live. And as always, wish you all good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. or we're going to do this again another time. Peace out, everybody.